like Leonard Cohen, I was born with the gift of a golden voice. And when this gift arrived, it was not a welcome one. I was a scrawny little kid, incredibly self-conscious. It wasn't so much that I was afraid of public speaking, which I was afraid of private speaking. I didn't say anything. And when I'd walk into a room and I'd have to open my mouth, heads would swivel and people would look and be, oh, with a voice like that, he must have something to say for himself. I'm afraid not. And I think some of the fear of public speaking went back to the very first time that I opened my mouth in public. I was chosen to give a reading at my confirmation, and this obviously was quite a big deal, and the whole family were there, and the Archbishop of Dublin was there. Well, actually, he was over there. And my grandfather was there, and he was definitely the most religious member of the family, and this meant a lot to him that I'd been chosen to do one of the readings. And I was up at the pulpit, and I had the piece of paper to read out, and one of the roadie priests came up to me and kind of said, "Are you good to go? Are you ready to go?" And I was on a hair trigger at that point, so of course I rocked straight into it, my little voice pealing out over the congregation, echoing around the church. And as I came to the end of the reading, thinking to myself, well, this seemed to have gone quite well, I could feel something to my left, and I looked over and I saw the Archbishop of Dublin looking daggers at me over his glasses. Apparently that had not been my cue to speak. And also, nobody speaks before the Archbishop speaks. So we went to a posh hotel for lunch afterwards, and unfortunately, my family is the kind of family where we don't really talk about things, or at least we didn't back then. So nobody said to me, don't worry about it. It was only a mistake. It's grand. I knew I'd let down my grandfather. And I knew that that meant a lot to my mother. And I just sat there throughout the whole lunch, just kind of stewing in a little puddle of shame and embarrassment. Now, the other thing that people would say when they heard my voice is, "You must have a beautiful singing voice." Again, unfortunately not. I was the singer in a band in school, aged about 15, and the only reason it fell on me to be the singer was because I in no way could play any instruments. And we were a punk band, so it was more about shouting than singing. We were called the Introverts. Surprisingly, we never played live. And we were so bad, we had to audition for the drummer rather than have him audition for us. I'm pretty sure he did us and the world a favor when he turned us down. I had found one use for my voice that was quite welcome in my mid-teens. There were certain pubs in South County Dublin which had very relaxed attitudes towards the licensing laws. And I would go into them, look them straight in the eye and say, "Pint of Guinness, please." And I'd get one. I'd get another one. I'd get many of them. And of course, when I had these pints of Guinness in me, I could talk to people. And that would have been fine, other than the fact that my enthusiasm for this state developed to the point where I started running into trouble in my mid-20s. And the only thing that was going to get me out of that trouble was my voice. I had to go to rooms full of people just like myself and open my mouth and say some of the things I'd done that I was deeply ashamed of, and how I felt about those things, and what I wanted to do to change my life. And it was so very difficult to do that. But I had to. I knew I had to. I just kept going. And over the years, in those rooms, I found my voice. And that then started percolating out into the world. And my voice still would get attention, and I didn't mind quite so much. I remember one time I was waiting for a ferry back from one of the Aran Islands, and this tall, striking woman came over to me. I later found out this is the poet Rita Ann Higgins. Without a word of introduction or any niceties whatsoever, she boomed at me, "You have a fabulous voice!" I said, "Thanks very much, that's very kind of you." She went on to say, "You should do phone sex for money." Not yet, but we'll see. I had been the black sheep of the family, so when my grandfather died around the same time, it meant a huge amount to me that I was asked to give a eulogy at his funeral. And I was very nervous, and I went up, and this was certainly the first time I'd been up speaking from any kind of a pulpit since my confirmation. And I read out what I'd written, which was a very heartfelt, very loving tribute to our grandfather. And as I walked back down, even though we were still the kind of family where praise was not something that naturally flowed, I could see in my mother's eyes that she was really, really proud of me. And when I thought about telling the story, that's where I thought the story ended. And sure, why not? But then I thought a little further, and I realized there was something in the story that still needed to be resolved. Something I've wanted to do for years and years, and never let myself do, because I might be terrible at it. I might find out I just can't do it. But so what? I'm going to do it anyway. So last week, I signed myself up for singing lessons.